Oh, what's good, everybody? This is ESPN, UFC Sports Analysis, Dion Smoke. And ladies and gentlemen, UFC 245, which just happened this past Saturday, is officially in the books. And Colby Covington got his ass whooped. Oh my God. I told people this thing with Colby Covington was all an act. Colby Covington is one of the most overrated fighters in the welterweight division. He's the most overrated fighter in the welterweight division. And I had a feeling, and I knew going into this fight, that this fight was going to be an ultimate slaughter by Usman. I talked to Kamaru Usman on the phone Friday. It was Friday before the fight. He goes, "You know what, Dion? This guy, Colby," he said, "You know what? I'm going to beat the mega out of this guy." He said, "You know what, Dion? Put it in the books. By the time this fight's over, I'm going to beat the mega out of his Trump hat and out of his body in that cage." And my friends, that's exactly what happened. And I said on the phone, "You know what, Kamaru?" I said, "I believe you. You know." I said, "I believe you. I've been following like Kamaru Usman's training. The guy's a beast. Kamaru Usman is like this guy is a total animal beast. He's taken over the welterweight division. You know what I mean? Besides Ben Askren, Kamaru Usman is the best wrestler. Besides Ben Askren and in the welterweight division, Ben Askren probably has his number wrestling. Kamaru Usman is the best wrestler. His grab wrestling is the best in the welterweight division, and probably the top 5 in the whole roster of the UFC. Kamaru Usman is definitely the deserved champion, and Kamaru Usman is on a streak, a 12-win winning streak. He's coming up. Kamaru Usman's no joke. You know what I mean? But I knew this thing with Colby Covington. He talked so much shit. He put down Kamaru Usman's Nigerian African culture. He did everything he possibly could to get into the head of Kamaru Usman. And it was total slaughter. It was total slaughter. And I saw through the whole thing. I said, this is just all an act. It's all an act. You know? But people laughed at me. They said, "Oh, Colby, you know, he's the best wrestler. He would have to beat Robbie Lawler." Oh, you mean that fight, you mean that Robbie Lawler fight that went to decision? That Robbie Lawler was paid not to throw a single strike. The fight was rigged, that fight. You go back and watch that Robbie Lawler fight with Colby Covington. He wasn't paid to throw he was paid not to throw a single strike. Robbie Lawler was paid to throw the fight. Everybody saw it, you know, even one who's not, you know, theorist or whatever, they saw it. You could tell Robbie Lawler wasn't even trying. Like, he was barely, you know what I mean? Colby Covington was doing it was all an act. Colby Covington was the hype man for this fight, and that was it. He tried bringing politics, all, you know what I mean? Trump. I'm even starting to wonder if he really supports Trump. Is that is that a lie too? Is that an act? He barely won that fight with Ralph dos Anjos. Ralph dos Anjos. He barely won that fight. Everything is WWE-esque. It's staged with this guy, Colby. Kamaru Usman beat the brakes off this dude. Pure striking. Pure striking. If the fight would have went to the ground, it would have been even worse. And then Colby Covington has the audacity to say, oh, and that's another thing too. Colby Covington eye pokes Kamaru Usman, knees him in the ball sack. And Colby Covington has the audacity to say the ref was paid off. That Kamaru Usman was buying time. No, you really poked this guy in the eye. We saw the replay. You really need this guy in the ding-dong. We saw the fight. But see, I told people it was all an act with Colby. I told people, Colby, stop the bullshit. People say, oh, Colby would choke you out. No. Just by wrestling alone, I could out-wrestle Colby. You know what I mean? Which brings me to my next point. You say, well, Dion, you know, so Kamaru Usman winning this fight, does that mean this fight was actually not rigged? No. This fight was rigged. Well, what do you mean? And I'm going to tell you why. This game, you notice the full 5 rounds. This fight didn't go to the ground at all. You say, well, Dion, what do you mean by that? I'm glad you asked. These two are support. Well, Kamaru Usman is definitely a top tier wrestler. Colby Covington's a good wrestler. He's just not the best. You got 2 top tier wrestlers, and they just strike the whole 5 rounds. There's nothing suspicious about that. The only time this fight went to the ground is when Kamaru Usman was going after he hit that final right with the strike. That he went to the ground and started to ground and pound with the hammer fist. I have a theory that Dana White told the 2 fighters before this fight started that he said, I want you guys to just strike this fight out. Don't go to the ground at all. You say, well, Dion, that's crazy. Well, that's what I believe. That's what I think. How in the world are you going to have 2 top tier wrestlers just strike it out for the whole 5 rounds? Colby Covington's specialty is wrestling, even though he sucks at it. Kamaru Usman's specialty is wrestling. They're going to strike it out for 5 rounds? Come on. Now, if this fight wasn't rigged, and they did wrestle, and it was and they decided to grapple, Kamaru Usman would have probably wiped the floor with them and put him in submission. Because Kamaru Usman's, besides Ben Askren, he's the best wrestler in the welterweight division. You say even over Tyron Woodley? Yes, even over Tyron Woodley. You say, well, I don't believe that. I don't care what you believe. That's why I'm the analyst and you're the spectator. You don't know anything about combat sport. But guys, UFC 245 was sweet and great. This is what happens when you talk too much shit and you're a hype man. You know what I mean? So now I'm gonna call Kamaru Usman and I find out who's next. Who's going to be next on the front line? Where's Jorge Masvidal? Nate Diaz? Leon Edwards? We will find out. UFC 245 in the books. I'm out.